Daddy John. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and go ahead and let's start the podcast.
No worries. How you going?
Doing good. Yeah, sound good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, my name's John. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I live in a little town called Camden. We were just talking before. You're saying you've got a town in America called Camden too. There's a few around the world, but so I'm in a little town called Camden. It's about 45-minute drive from Sydney. I've had a few Yaoi encounters over the years, and like they were pretty scary in that. But the ones that really shocked me was my Dogman encounters, and they were actually they were probably only about 15. No, it's probably about 25-minute drive from like the main street in Sydney. So right in suburbia, which I didn't think these creatures existed, and to actually run into them in suburbia around 100,000 houses, it was just wild.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's, we talked to many people about the doghead, the dogman or wolfman. They also call them, the dog-headed people or the cynocephali and all kinds of crazy names. But
yeah.
It's always very shocking to hear someone that's seen it, and now it's getting more and more common. So if you can you start and talk about, the first time you ever saw anything that was just out of the ordinary, whether that was a dogman or that Bigfoot out in Australia or whatever it is, whatever you saw first, go ahead and start from the beginning if you can.
Yeah, no worries. Well, the first encounter I had was with a Yowie. We didn't actually see it, but with all the things that happened in the encounter, it was, you look up encounters in Australia with the Australian Yowie, and everything that happened that night lines up with hundreds of accounts all over the internet. So we knew it was, and I've been back since, because it was at my Nana Pop's farm. But they had a little hobby farm. It's about 3.5 hours drive from where I live, down in the bush, and they bought the property as it was only about 100 acres, which not sure if what you guys go by over in America, but 160 acres. So it's pretty big. It's not massive. It's not like a big ranch or that you'd have over there, but still enough fun. We like enough space for us to go down and have fun on motorbikes, and then pop to, now they've got a couple of sheep and stuff on there just to get away from the city basically. And we took a trip down there one night. My dad used to be the local milkman in my town, so he'd always work night shift and day shift. Like his hours are all over the place and could never get away. And then he got a different job. He was still working for the milk company, but he just worked in the warehouse, and he actually got a chance to go away on holidays. So we got down to the farm. It was about 11 o'clock at night. Then a pop had already got down there before us and set it all up. Like every time you go to the property, you'd have to turn the power on and everything like that. So they got down there, set up the place for us to turn up about 11 o'clock, and we pulled up and went inside and had a talk. We'll sit down and had a coffee and stuff with Nana Pop. I can't remember the exact date, but I was about 15, 16 years old. So I'm 33 now, so it was a fair while, like a fair bit of time before. But we got down there and we had a coffee and stuff, and we were talking about the property. And then a pop had just got a dam put on the property, like a big it was pretty much like a lake. It's a big water source down there for any animals and that, and we done it to put fish and stuff in there to go fishing and that. So it was 100 meters long by 50 meters wide, and it was about 20 meters deep. So me and Dad were all excited because we love fishing and that, and we're like, oh, we should go for a walk down there. And we thought, oh yeah, it'd be pretty cool. And then he goes, you know what, we've got some torches in the cupboard if you want to go for a walk down. So we got all excited and grabbed the torches, and they're really bad torches. Like one was like the old, I don't know if you guys have them over in America in your boats. Like in Australia, you always have these dolphin torches. They float. So if you're out in the boat at night and you drop it overboard, it won't sink and you can get it and stuff like that. So they only shoot about 20, 30 meters in front of you. They're not real strong. And the other torch was like a little LED, like the security guard lights you see the security guards pull out and when they're searching places. So it was a terrible torch too. So we didn't have much light, but we thought we'll go for a walk, and we started heading down towards the dam. It was about a kilometre walk down there, so just under a mile for you guys over there. And we got about halfway down, and we seen these big set of eyes from the torch shining through the paddocks. Seen these big set of eyes come running at us, and we sort of freaked out. And at the last second, when this thing's come into the light where you could actually see what it was and not just the eye shine. It was actually my uncle had bought a horse, but he'd had it in a different paddock, and he'd moved it into the house paddock, like, and we didn't know about it. So we all had a laugh because it scared the crap out of us. But we started walking a bit further down, and Mum actually said, "Guys, can you smell fire?" And we stopped and we're laughing, and like, you know what? We all had a bit of a sniff around, and you could actually smell like a fire. In Australia with the bushfires, like our bushfires and that, it's got a real strong eucalyptus smell because most of our forests are eucalyptus, and it smelled like smelled like a big bushfire. And that night there was no moon at all. So if there was a fire within, I don't know, probably 30 kilometres, you'd nearly see the glow of it in through the bush. So there was no fire, and we thought that's a bit weird. And all of a sudden the smell went. We're like, what the? That's just odd. Like, you could smell fire. The wind didn't change or anything, and now you can't. And we decided to keep walking, and we got a little bit further down the track, and Mum said, "Can you hear fire?" And in the distance, you could hear like the roar of a big bushfire, like the big. And that's when we got a bit nervous. Like, there must be a fire somewhere we can't hear it. You could just hear this sound like the big roar of a bushfire, and then it just stopped again, and we're like, what the hell? And Nan actually said, oh, maybe there's someone down the dam, like where the dam was. Maybe there's a couple of people down there might have jumped the fence and having a campfire down there and staying without asking. We call them squatters over here. They just go into properties and just do what they want. And so we sort of picked up the pace a bit to get down there to see if anyone was there to tell them to get out of here. And you go down through a gateway and it drops down to a little creek, and there was a creek crossing. You jump across the creek. On the other side of the creek, there's a big willow tree. And then you go past the willow tree, and then it was only probably about 100 metres to the dam. So we got to this gateway and started to head down towards the creek, and all of a sudden we heard this big crash bang, and this thump, thump, thump noise through the sky, and we're like, what's that? And we stopped and froze, and a massive branch actually hit the fence behind us near the gate. And we heard as it hit the fence, we heard something take off, and we've all run to the house. It just scared us so much. We sprinted the whole way back up the house and got up to the house and told Pop, and he said, let's get in the car, we'll go for a drive down there. And we got down there, crossed the creek, and where the willow tree was, you'd actually see where something had broken a massive branch off the willow tree, and it was actually cracked and thrown it at us. And I don't know about you guys, but we don't have any animals in our bush in Australia that can throw branches.
Absolutely not.
So,
no.
Yeah.
I actually just saw a video too. Someone supposedly caught on one of those outdoor cameras, like a figure, a humanoid that looked like a Bigfoot, picking up like a 30-foot branch and just like slamming it like a baseball. I actually saw that video.
Was that the really dark creature? It just sort of, you can just see its head, and then it stands up and then knocks the...
Yeah, and it's like throwing a bunch of big trees around. Like, it's not just a quick video. It's like a good 2-3 minute video. These massive trees getting tossed around like sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of right now when he said that. I actually, in the video, he pulls it out of the ground, the roots. Like, you see the whole thing come out.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I've seen that. Yeah, and that's what we don't have any creatures. We don't have anything in the Australian bush that can throw a branch. And me and Dad actually had a look at it, and we were lucky to where the willow tree was to where we were was about 70 metres. So what would that be in feet? I think, in yards for you guys, I think 100 metres in Australia is like 110 yards for you guys. So not far off, so 70 metres. I don't know. I could work it out if I had time, but it's thrown it a fair way, and me and Dad were lucky to pick it up and move it, let alone be able to throw it there. So whatever it was a massive creature. And like I was saying, back then no one went down the farm. Like, it might be the odd weekend every 2 to 3 months. No one was actually living at the place. So that happened when we got up the house. We went for the drive down. You could see where the branch had been broken off the willow tree, and Pop said, oh, maybe there's a couple of goats and all that might have been up in the, because the tree sort of went across the ground a bit, the trunk went across a bit and then grew up, so you could actually sit up on top of the trunk. He said, oh, maybe some goats are up there and they broke the branch and just got spooked. And me and Dad were like, nah, something's thrown that branch at us. So we went out and had a look, and there was no signs on the property anywhere of someone having a fire, or there's no bushfires around. So when we were sitting around talking about it, and that's when Dad said to me, he goes, "Oh, maybe it was a Yowie." And then it popped, and my mum actually started to laugh. And I said to him, I said, "What's a Yowie?" And he said, "That's the Australian Bigfoot." And we jumped on the internet and had a look, and there's an Australian website called the Australian Yowie Hunters, and they've actually got a forum you can go on, and they actually log. They've got a log of all the encounters that the people have talked to them about, and so you can go on there and have a look, and they've got an interactive map where you can actually have a look and see stuff around like it goes on to say Google Maps, and it will show you say where you are, and you can search the whole of Australia, and it'll show you. It's got pin drops on all the like encounters in that location. So we went on to that. Back then they didn't have the interactive map, but they just had encounters, and you can scroll through them all and read them. And I just looked for the location, and within 50 kilometres of the farm, there was say 10 encounters that have been logged back to the 1800s that were actually in newspaper clippings of Yowie encounters. And then you went out to 100 kilometres, and there was like 30 to 40 encounters, and this was back like 2005. So it's a while ago, but now I can go on there and actually have a look at this interactive map, and it actually shows, and you look where the farm is, and it's just pin drops all around where the farm is. So there's been plenty of encounters down there. That same trip, we actually went to a different, I think it was 2 days later, me and Dad went to go and fish out of the creek, and we had to jump the fence and go down a bit further from the motorbike. So we went down and found a little spot in the creek. We got all these reeds and stuff, and there was one spot, the reeds, there was none there. There was a big open, like a hole. So we went there, and we were trying to catch these fish, and they're only little. They were that small, you couldn't even hook them on the lures. And we hook one, and then you'd lose it, and we'd have a bit of a laugh. And we actually heard something come running through the bush towards us. It sounded like a kangaroo, and sure enough, a little kangaroo jumped out of the bush, and it was like looking at us, and we're like, oh, we're still in shock from the night, like a couple of nights before, with that creature throwing stuff at us. And so it sort of had us on edge. And so when that little kangaroo come out, we started to laugh at each other like, "You idiot, like, what are you worried about?" And it was about 10 minutes later, just getting dark enough that we were nearly about to pull the torches out to start walking back to the motorbike, and we heard a massive creature come running through the bush, and it was on 2 feet. You'd hear the boom, 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 boom as its feet were hitting the ground. It sounded like sledgehammers. And whatever it was, it just come running through, and we looked, and we're like, "Is that a kangaroo?" And the little kangaroo that had come out previously looked at us, and it was like a cartoon, like you seen the colour drain out of this animal's face, and it just took off.
Oh, wow.
Running out into the paddock, and me and Dad just grabbed our gear and ran and jumped on the motorbike, and it's like we had a quad bike, we couldn't get it started. It was like a horror movie, but whatever it was, when it come running out, when the kangaroo ran off and we ran, we didn't hear it again. But we got on the quad and ran back to, shot back to the house, and I didn't sleep at all that night. Luckily, we went early the next day, so I did not sleep a wink. Every noise I heard outside, I was like, "Is that this creature coming again?" And it was terrifying. And since then, and I had another encounter, it was a couple of years ago, but after that, I had to look up all the different encounters with these creatures, and a lot of people report having a weird smell when they run into these creatures, and sometimes there's the ammonia smell, like the rotten, sewerage sort of smell. There's other people, they'll report smelling like burnt, metal, electrical sort of fire. And then in Australia, there's a lot of encounters of people actually smelling bushfires from these creatures. So whether they emit the smell sort of like a skunk or I don't know what, but a lot of people actually reported smelling bushfires around, when they have an encounter with a Yowie. So, and then thinking about too, that sound of the fire, maybe it wasn't the sound of a fire at all. That could have been this creature roaring at us to tell us to stay away. And we just thought it was a fire because we didn't know about these creatures, kept going, and that's why it's thrown the branch. Maybe it had a baby with it, or maybe we were just heading into its territory, or maybe it hadn't seen people before and just freaked out. But whatever it was bloody terrifying.
What strikes me is the smell. You said you smell fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you smell, when you say fire, what exactly? Did you smell was it electrical fire, or was it?
Nah, like a bushfire. So your wildfires over these, your forest fires. So the smell of a big bushfire. over here. Like I said, our eucalyptus trees, when they burn, they have a certain smell. Or so over years, like your bushfires, like they have in California, like in the pine barrens and stuff like that, like a big fire.
That's really strange.
Yeah. So that's what freaked us out, and then it ended up being a lot of people have actually reported that smell.
But was there smoke or just the smell of it?
Nah, just the smell. There was no sign of a fire. There was no glow in the sky because it was so dark. By the time that had happened, it was about 12 o'clock at night, 12:30. So if there was any fires within 5 to 10 k's, you'd see the glow through the darkness with it. So
you definitely
no smoke, no flames, nothing. It was just a smell. So whether these creatures can let this smell off like a skunk or what, but I know a lot of people in America have reported that electrical smell or or the ammonia smell, like the sewage sort of smell.
Ammonia smell, for sure.
The smell. Yeah.
I heard about that one before, but the fire one, no, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, the fire. For me, when I think about that and the noise you heard associated with that, a lot of people who've seen these type of things always report some kind of portal opening.
It might be a portal from hell opening up.
Yeah, it might have been.
I've had another person say that.
Yeah, it might have been a portal just burning a little bit of a brush around there.
Or whatever's coming from is hell.
Yeah,
opening up. Yeah. Okay, that's what I think it is. For real.
Yeah. Yeah, the guys I spoke to a while ago, Cryptids of the Corn, and he mentioned about maybe it was a portal, something to do with a portal, the smell or even the sound of that roar. Maybe that was actually the sound of a portal opening. Yeah. It's for these creatures just to be alive and walking among us, anything's possible, isn't it?
Absolutely. Is that the first? Is that the one and only encounter you had with the? How do you say the Yaoi, or do you have any more with the specific creature?
I've had so many.
Have you seen it?
The next, I hadn't had anything happen for years and years, and then the next encounter I had with anything was, I thought it was a Yaoi, but it could have been with a Dogman or something. But I didn't see it again. But again, with what happened with the encounter, it points to being a Yaoi, but it was actually December 2019, and my son was born. So he was born just before COVID and that, and he was born December, and I had time off work. So my plan with my partner was, if I get up really early in the morning, I'll go fishing in my kayak, say 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I'll fish till the sun comes up, and then I'll come home and help with the baby and my daughter and everything that's got to go on around the house. So I started going out, 2-3 o'clock in the morning to all spots around my house, like within 10 minutes drive. Like I've got a river that goes through my main town. I go fishing all the time, and I've had a few odd things happen over the years, and I didn't really think about it because I didn't really pay attention. Like before this had happened, I'd been fishing down the river in my main town and heard something walking through the bush follow me, and I took it as a person. But then after this has happened, I realised where it had happened, there's no way a person could have kept up with me walking through that bush with how thick it was along the river's bank. And another time I'd seen a pair of glowing red eyes in the bush.
Oh, God.
And I thought, it's just I just caught a fox or something with me headlamp and just seen like the reflection, and that's what it was. And then after thinking about that, I was like, that night I didn't have me headlamp, so they were actually glowing red eyes.
Wow.
I seen in the bush, like it was just not paying attention. You know what I mean? Like when you're not awake, it's so easy to miss.
That is your brain telling you that there's something very scary and demonic in front of you, and it's telling your brain to just ignore it. It's just a fox, man. Because that's scary, dude. There's no light and things glowing. Nah, man, I'm good.
No animals always glow. They don't illuminate. They catch reflections and stuff like that. But I don't know of any animals that their eyes actually illuminate like torches. You know what I mean? Like,
oh wow,
but
that's like a Dogman kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't pay attention to that sort of stuff. But this encounter I had in 2019, Australia, you would have seen it on the news all over the world, where the biggest bushfires on record. Like the east coast of Australia was nearly wiped out. Like there was not much land left that didn't burn, and a lot of people lost houses, a lot of lives lost. I think there was over like 20 million animals lost their lives. Like, it was ridiculous. The smoke, they said they could see the smoke from the satellites. It was that bad over Australia.
Oh.
But so where I live, it's about 15, 20 minutes up through the bush, and that's where like this Sydney's main water dam is. So like their water source, all the water for the whole of Sydney comes from that like the water. I don't know what you call them over there. They're lakes.
Yeah,
so
dams, maybe.
Yeah, the dam or lake. It and up there it joins onto the Blue Mountains, where anyone that's ever looked up Yowies in Australia, it's like the pinnacle of Yowie locations in Australia. The most encounters, the craziest encounters. Like it's famous for Yowies, or even for Bigfoot enthusiasts that look up Australian creatures. So it joins onto that dam. So when this happened, and I worked it out, like for a creature like a Yowie, it's not actually too far at all for it to get to where this happened. But I pulled up at this spot to go fishing. It was only about 10 minutes from my house, and you'd park up on the road, pull the kayak off, grab all my fishing rods, go down through the bush, throw my kayak into the water, and have to hang off a branch of a tree to get into the kayak because it was a bit steep. And so I've done that, jumped in there. It was about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I've jumped in, set up all my fishing rods, put all the lures on that I wanted to use, had it all ready, and I smoked like rollies, so like rolling tobacco, and so I rolled up a cigarette, licked it, put it in my mouth, and as I've gone to light it, whatever that was, this creature or being come charging out of the bush that I just walked through, and stopped within like 30 centimeters of me, like right on the edge of the bank. And by the time I turned with my headlamp, it was there was nothing there. But whatever it was massive. It sounded like a horse or a cow coming running out of the bush. And all I thought of was I just pushed off the bank with my kayak and floated out to the middle of the river. And I was absolutely freaking out. I actually had my GoPro going at the time, and I didn't hear any noise of this creature leaving or anything, but I started to hear this weird noise in my ears, sort of like the predator noise.
Oh, man.
If you do it yourself. So if like you go, like you could probably hear it properly. It sort of sounded like that.
That's a good rendition.
That was actually pretty good.
But it was in my ears. And I was like, what is that noise? What is that noise? And I'm looking around, and it was after about half an hour of paddling around. I actually paddled up to the bank because I didn't hear, whatever it was, I didn't hear it take off. I heard it come charging out and rip through the bush towards me, but I never heard another sound after that. I was like, whatever it was, it might have been a big wombat or a cow or a horse or something. Maybe I just haven't seen it. If I paddle up to the bank and I stood up in my kayak and looked with my headlamp, and I've actually got a little spotlight, like a rechargeable spotlight I take with me now after the encounter down the bush with that Yowie. This torch shoots out to 500 meters, like it's massive. But so I've jumped up and shining around with that, and there was not one sign of anything. And I could still hear this noise in my ear, and I went to yell out to try and spook something. Maybe it was lying in the bush and I couldn't see it. I thought I'd yell out real loud, and I might you scare animals so easy if you yell at them. So I was like, I'll try and scare out whatever it is, it'll take off. And I physically could not yell. I was yelling, but there was no sound coming out of my mouth. And since then, after it's happened, a lot of people have said that maybe that noise in my ear was actually, I was getting hit by the infrasound, and that's why I couldn't make the noise. But so I've paddled back out to the middle of after that I paddled back out to the middle of the river and just kept paddling around in circles till the sun come up, because I was like, I can't get out and take off because I've got to get out of the kayak and go through that bush to get back to my car. So I was stuck. There was nowhere else to go. And so I just paddled around. As soon as the sun come up completely, I think it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock by the time I had the nerve to get out. I jumped out, ran to the car, went home, got home and went, oh my God, I had my GoPro playing the whole time. That video on my GoPro is still the only video I've ever had that's corrupted and will not work.
Oh, man. Wow.
I've still got it on my computer and it just says corrupted. I've tried all the different files, tricks, and I paid someone $50. They couldn't even fix it. It's just fried.
Wow.
So if on my GoPro, it was still taking up the space, but just physically wouldn't work. So it's so weird. It's there, but it's not. So, and that's when one of my mates said maybe you got hit with infrasound, and that's why you couldn't make that noise. And that's why it fried your footage. Like
that could be another possibility too, man. I believe that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that happened. I went home and told my partner and that, and I was like, from now on, I'm never going out before sunlight to go fishing. It's terrifying. And the next year, so this was 2020. Actually, I went back to the same spot, but I went with my brother-in-law, and this was in the afternoon. So like, we'll go out there quickly, have a bit of a fish, and we'll be back to the car before the sun goes down. And while we're out fishing, we actually got caught in a freak storm that wasn't forecast or anything. It's all of a sudden, I can't remember the name of the clouds, but when there's when the atmosphere is really unstable, you get these clouds, and it's the sky sort of looks like a bubble wrap. So they're like perfect lumps all through the sky. I don't know if you've seen them before, but
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's when the atmosphere is really unstable.
That's also a weird coincidence too. That's happening right there when you're out there.
Yeah, and I've had people mention before maybe this is something to do with that creature too, because you hear a lot of stuff like this happening around encounters and stuff. So, or like the missing 411s and stuff like that. But so these clouds that come over, and my brother-in-law flies planes, and he actually said, "Oh, Johnny, we're in trouble here. We're gonna either take off now and try and get to the car, or we'll wait it out." And by the time he finished saying that, the storm that come through, the winds were like 80 kilometers an hour. So like, what's that? Nearly 60 mile an hour winds, and the rain was that hard. We basically paddled under some trees, dropped all our rods down in the kayaks because the fishing rods will get hit before the trees get hit with lightning because they're all graphite and carbon fiber and stuff. So we're hiding under these trees, freaking out. And by the time the storm stopped, we basically started heading back to the car, and it went dark. We were stuck there for so long, and we were going back, and I was like, "Oh, it's not too bad. It's not too bad." And after a while, I heard a branch break out to my right-hand side of me in the river. And all of a sudden I could hear someone walking through the bush beside us. And I was like, "Oh, we're dead here." Whatever that was that night, it's still here. And I, after that first encounter at this location, everyone said maybe that creature had come from up in this Blue Mountains area because of the bushfires. Maybe it come down to escape the fires. And then when I've gone to light the cigarette, maybe it thought I was trying to start a fire, and that's why it's charged out at me and scared me. But then after it realised I wasn't trying to set the bush on fire, it left me alone. So I thought I should be right to go back out there, because if it was because of the fires, this creature would have left. As soon as I heard this thing start walking through the bush beside us, I was like, this thing hasn't left at all. We're in trouble here. And we started paddling back, and we're sort of trying to fish at the same time to sort of I was trying to make it look like I didn't know that this creature was there, just playing dumb. And out to the left, my brother-in-law goes, "What's that?" And you could see a set of eyes in the bush, and all of a sudden it was like a cartoon. There was one set of eyes, then there was 2, 3, 4, 5, and it got up to about 10 set of eyes. I'm like, what the hell, freaking out? And we'd actually paddled up on a big group of deer. They were all sitting along the edge of the river. And once we got up close enough, the deer hadn't actually noticed us with our headlamps shining torches on them. They were looking past us at whatever that thing was walking through the bush beside us. And that's when the fear that come through me then, I was like, oh my God, these deer haven't even noticed us because they're worried about what's over there. Maybe we should be taken off as quick as we could. And all of a sudden the deer noticed us, ran off, and then whatever that creature was following us, it just stopped. So whether it was a coincidence that it was following us, or maybe it was just walking along because it had known that these deer were further up the river, and maybe it was going to go up and try and target them. But whatever it was, after the deer took off, we didn't hear from it. We got back to the car, threw everything on the car, and took off home. And that was then I went, I'm not going to this river system at all anymore. I've been there mornings, night, everything. I'm sick of all this stuff happening. I'm going to find somewhere else to go. And that's when, so this was December 2020. And it was about a week later, I had the first Dogman encounter. So it was pretty wild.
Going back to your encounter with the Yaoi.
Yep.
We've had other interviews, and there's a consensus that these Bigfoot they have the ability to cloak.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've
maybe
heard that
when you heard
as well.
something, yeah, before you took off the boat, it was probably just standing there looking at you, and you didn't see it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen videos of that. There was that lady that was up in the tree stand, is it called?
Oh, yeah.
That you put up in the trees to go hunting.
Right.
And you could see that thing moving through the canopy, and it was like when the predator moves on the movies.
That's what they, that's what they describe. It's weird.
Terrifying.
I think Ron Moorhead mentioned something about that, and D.A. Roberts
said it turned green or something like that in front of him. One of them said it turned completely green, and it just like disappeared into like, just like camouflage.
And
it turned green. Oh, that's what he said. Either one of them said this. It was either the Ron Moorhead or the other guy. They said it turned green, and then it just blended into the background. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, something about their hair follicles can refract light and have it mimic its surrounding. I don't know, it's really strange, but yeah, it's a possibility.
I've seen one. I'm sure it was a Yowie. I went to a spot up near my grandma's place. She'd actually had a few. She'd seen one night. That she come into town. Like, her house is about 25 minutes from my place. It's basically the furthest you can go towards this dam, like Sydney's water source, and live without going into the out of bounds areas, which is convenient as it is that you can't go down near the water. You go to jail and get massive fines, because that's where I reckon these creatures are coming from, down in this area. But at her place, she thought it was a big wild boar going through the bin as she drove into the street, and it stood up in front of her and ran across the road on 2 feet. So it was a Yowie, obviously. And I think it was about 20 minutes later, her son, so my nan's brother, he come home, come tearing in the driveway, locked up the brakes. Him and his mate come running inside and ran to the gun cabinet and everything and sat in the table. And she's like, "What's happened?" She goes, "You seen it too, didn't you?" And they said, "Yep, we thought it was a pig going through the bin, and it stood up on 2 feet, and it would have been about 8 foot tall, and it ran across the road in front of us." So there is Yowies in this area. But I went for a walk down behind her place, because there used to be a waterfall you could get to, and I seen this massive figure. It would have been nearly 10 foot tall. It would have been as wide as nearly as wide across the chest as a car. Like, it was a monster, whatever this thing was. I could physically see it with my eyes. It was sticking out from behind a tree. This was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so full daylight. I pulled my camera up to record, and you could not see it on my camera.
What
the heck? That's weird.
Yeah. It was not coming up at all. And I've made a video on my YouTube about it. I'm like, I can see this thing there, but it's not. So I've got a Sony Handycam, and you got like the flip out screen. You can watch the screen, and looking at the screen and even looking through the eyepiece, this creature wasn't there, but I could physically see it with my own eyes, and that was terrifying. Because I was with my partner and my daughter at the time too. My daughter was only, what was she? I was only about 2 or 3 years ago, like 6, 7 years old. So I didn't want to scare her and say, "Let's get out of here." And I just sort of said, "Guys, we'll go down this track instead." So we didn't go to the waterfall, and basically turned around real quick and went back to the car, because I didn't want to terrify her of what's out there in the bush just yet. She's a bit young, so, but I could physically see it, and a lot of people know that. Like, a lot of people in Australia will report that. They'll see it. It won't come up on footage, or they record them. Their footages play up, whether they let off a frequency or what it is. Like you said, they cloak. Like, there's so much going on with these creatures. They
it's like a spectrum. Like, they could choose like the spectrum or something like that. Because the vision thing will have to be something to do with like, the color of the spectrum, and then kind of like, the frequencies of what you see would be kind of connected. I would think.
That's really strange. It sounds like it was because generally the camera can pick up stuff we can't see, and it seems
that's
like
what my friend said. One of my good mates. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. If you've got have you got Tubi in America? It's like sort of like Netflix and that. It's a free one. Mm-hmm. He's got documentaries on there on the Yowie. So one of my friends, he actually had he caught a Yowie on footage, and my other friend done a documentary and put him in it and stuff. But the first one's called Track Search for the Australian Bigfoot, and the other one's Tracking the Law. It's a new one that come out, and I was actually on it with my Dogman encounters at the end. But
oh, nice.
The information he's picked up from making these documentaries and the encounters he's had and that, and he's even said, he goes, "We hear so many people recording stuff that they didn't see, but they catch it with the camera." He goes, "But I haven't heard of someone seeing something but then not catching it on the camera." So Imagine how many people out there have seen these things and then recorded them, and then went, oh yeah, look, I didn't catch it on the camera. Oh well, and not talk about it.
Yeah, it's like
they actually have caught it, but whatever they're doing, they're mucking with the cameras, and it could be the best footage anyone's ever seen in their lives out there, but haven't come up because they've mucked with the frequency or changed their, I don't know, maybe they can vibrate something to change their frequency so they don't come up on camera or something like that.
When you were recording it, did it know you were there when you were recording it?
It was looking straight at me.
Okay, so look at this is my theory. Okay, so these things are obviously very smart, intelligent. Who knows how intelligent they are? So maybe when you see these things caught on other cameras, they're usually, you know, like for example, that one video, it's like a little camera in the forest. The thing doesn't know that it's there. So maybe when it does know, you know, where something's going on, like it could focus its concentration on, you know, block this camera out, do that. Because, you know, when these things get caught and they're not, you know, they don't know the camera's on them, you see them perfectly fine.
Yeah. So, and so many people say that, like, what is it we can only see, is it like 10% of what's actually going on around us with our eyesight, with the different color spectrums and that? I'm sure it's only like 10%. So these creatures only have to, they might be able to meditate or something. They can just drop in and out of what we can actually see. And my family, my grandma's side of the family actually, like, First Nations, like Aboriginal people. So I'm Aboriginal descent, and there's been a lot of talk the last couple of years about there used to be a treaty between the Aboriginals, the Yowies, and they knew about each other and they lived together. So like the Yowies would make baskets for the Aboriginals and they used to trade together and stuff. And I've heard a lot of stories of the Native Indians, like over in America, having the same. And they've talked about Australia had like the Aboriginals in Australia had a treaty with the Yowies. The Yowies would look after the forests and the Aboriginals look after the land. So when the Europeans come over and took over Australia, the Aboriginals and the Yowies broke that treaty because they couldn't look after the land anymore. But there's been talks, a lot of elders have actually been contacted by Yowies, whether it's through like telepathically or actually running into them, and a lot of people are talking about the Yowies actually want to bring back the treaty. They want to come out and fix everything again. I've heard that a lot of Aboriginal elders and that are talking about it, and that's pretty wild. And they've said, everyone that talks about it says that these creatures are coming forward to people that they can trust and people they know that will spread the word about them. You know what I mean? So that could be like, you hear a lot of groups of people going out and one person will see one, but then the other 5 people they can't see it, or only one person hears something take off, and it could be something to do with like that. Maybe they're actually choosing who they come forward to, if you know what I mean.
What do you what's your whole opinion? Do you think I think, you know, speaking to you before, correct me if I'm wrong, but you believe in Jesus, right? And the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't into it all. Like growing up, I did go to church. We did church stuff at school and that, but like I wasn't big like that.
Oh yeah, I got that.
I had a lot of bad stuff happen over the years, and I had a lot, like my pop, he was my best mate, and he was the nicest person you ever meet. And the stuff that I seen him go through with cancer and heart problems and all that, and the thing that used to get me was like, if he's the nicest person I've ever met, he's my best friend. I love my dad, but like you're always a bit closer with different stuff, like with your grandfather. Like, so you can go to your grandfather and be like, oh, mum and dad are annoying me, blah blah blah. Like, it's just a different sort of bond. So it's not that I love my pop more than I love my dad. It's just a sort of different bond. And I did race horses and he done them, so I used to ring him every day. But I seen him for about 12 years go through cancer and heart. He had a heart attack and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, how can someone like God and Jesus let someone like him go through all that? You know what I mean? And that's what used to get me. I was like, how is it that there's people out there that are murdering and raping and all this, nothing ever happens, but then someone like him that would give you guys, anyone in the world, the shirt off his back if he had to, like without even blinking an eyelid. You know what I mean? Like he was a milkman, he was a lifesaver at the beach, he used to save people in the surf, all this sort of stuff. Like he'd save anyone's life and sacrifice his own, and that used to get me a bit. But with all this sort of stuff going on around the world at the moment, it's sort of woken me up, and I went, you know what, I think I might have been wrong about a few things, you know what I mean? And
yeah, I mean,
a lot of this stuff now and a lot of demonic stuff going on around the world is like, well, if there's demonic stuff going on, there's obviously got to be the light and God and Jesus and that too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just
like
you know,
I said, it was really confusing for me back then, but now the more I look at stuff and the more you go, wow, like there is a greater good, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you're you're going down the path of Jesus, and later on off the air we can talk more about it if you want, about all those thoughts that you had. But I would love to get into that with you on another conversation. But the reason why I asked you was because based on believing in the Bible, I don't know how far you're into it, but there's these creatures called the Nephilim, the fallen ones, the hybrids, specifically the hybrids. Do you think, well, based on the Bible, I mean, there's no there's no good monsters out there. There's not like, good monsters that are going to help you out, and then bad monsters. So, are these things, monsters? Are they demonic entities? And if they are, I mean, they can't be out there to help us, right? I mean, what's your opinion on it? I'm just, that's my question to you based off the belief.
Just the stuff that I've had happen, like it scared me and that, but I haven't felt with the Yowies, I hadn't felt like, oh, that's me done. I'm gonna die here. I've been terrified, but then like at the same time, like it's weird because I've had stuff like when people see signs and stuff like that, I've been out driving around. I was supposed to go to a different spot and I couldn't go to it. It's my cousin's place. They were going out shooting, so they were going to go out shooting rabbits and that, and I didn't feel safe walking around the paddocks looking for evidence. So I just got in my car and drove one day, and I said, I'm just going to drive and I'm just going to pull up. Wherever I pull up, I'm going. And I drove around and ended up actually turning down this street and ended up at this bush line, and basically I pulled up, and as soon as I pulled up, you get that feeling someone's watching you, and I pulled my thermal camera out, and within about 10 meters from my car, a creature was actually hanging out from behind the bush looking at me, and I seen it on my thermal camera. So I was like, so maybe there could be, like us, there's good and bad as well. There might be bad, like the Nephilim and all that, but there could be also some Nephilim or fallen angels that are actually trying to counteract the bad, if you know what I mean. And the way the Yowies used to trade and everything with the Aboriginal people and taught them how to do the stuff that they still do to this day, I think some of them could be good, if you know what I mean.
They my hypothesis on these creatures are they possibly could be the remnants of the Horites in the Bible, the cave dwellers, the hairy ones.
Yep.
And if they taught the Aboriginals stuff, how to live, how to farm, how to do all that stuff, that kind of for me mimics Enoch when the fallen angels taught man new methods of government and and just basically general community and all this other stuff. So this creature is an enigma. Could it be possible that they are the remnants of the giants, or are they something that was created and never truly died out? I mean, it's just a big mystery, but you hear stories of them killing people, and other stories you hear them of helping someone. So it's kind of like
stories in America you hear of little kids get dropped off at a car park, and the kid says, "Oh, the bear carried me back."
Right,
and stuff like that. Like a little 2-year-old kid that's been missing for 3 weeks that should have been dead, and they've been looked after and brought back in perfect health. So it's, if there is bad, and like with God and Jesus and all that, like surely they could have created good ones to get in with the bad ones to try and counteract what they're trying to do, if you know what I mean. Like surely there has to be some, because if they were demonic and going to kill everyone and that, like the amount of encounters and that I've had the last couple of years, I should have been gone. You know what I mean? Like I've had times that stuff have happened when I've been in the middle of nowhere that there's no phone service, there's no chance of getting out at all. And I've just had them scare me off, like throw a rock near me and follow me back to the car and stuff like that. Like if they wanted to get you, they could, you know what I mean? But these dogmen, they're a whole different kettle of fish, if you know what I mean. Like they're the ones that I think that the missing 411 people, and they go missing out of middle of nowhere, and in Australia we have so many people go missing in the bush. I think it's more not the Yowies, I think it's these dogman creatures, and it's,
Wow.
I think they're more the demonic side of these beasts and stuff that are like roaming around us.
Let's get into that. Let's start with the Dogman stuff now. Let's talk about the first one. This is the good one, man. This is gonna be, these things are always creepy.
It's
always a crazy
so the
story.
first one, it was a couple of weeks, I think it was about 2 weeks after that last encounter where the creature was walking through the bush beside us in the kayaks. So it was the first one I had where the thing bluff charged me. That was in December 2019. And then the next one, like when that thing was walking through the bush next to me, it was nearly the same weekend, December 2020. So just before the world went full crazy. So that happened. I decided, no, I'm not going to this river anymore. I'm going to go to this other place. It'd take me half an hour to drive there just to go for a fish. So it was a bit annoying that I'd have to do it, but I went over there in this river. It was like no one had fished there. I'd catch so many fish. I had so much fun, and I seen a few odd things during the day over there, but not enough to go, wow, I'm not coming back. But one morning I got up and I was like, I'm going to go to this spot. I've picked it out on the map. I'm going to go try a fish there. It looks awesome. There's going to be like barely anyone's going to get there. And in Australia, when you go fishing, you got to take your fishing license with you all the time. If you get caught without a license, they can take all your fishing rods, your kayaks, everything. If they want to be really mean, the fisheries officers, they'll take your car and your boat and everything. Like, it's ridiculous, some of the laws over here. But, So I've always got my fishing license, and I've taken off. I worked out if I left my house at 5 in the morning, by the time I got over to the place, the sun had come up, and I'd set all my gear up and then go for a fish. So I've left at 5. It was about 10 minutes down the road. I was like, I'll stop at Macca's and get a coffee. Got there and went, I forgot my wallet. That's weird. I never forget anything. Never forget my fishing gear, my wallet, nothing, because I've always got to have my fishing license. Drove home, got my license, went back, bought a coffee, drove over this spot, got there, and the gates were locked. So where this is, it's a national park. So more like, if you've got state forests over there that they can lock the gates at night and you're not allowed in there and you're not allowed to camp and stuff there. I'm not too sure if you've got that over there.
Yeah, same thing.
So it's like that. But these spots I'd be going to, they don't lock the gates there for some reason, so I could get there before it was, because they don't usually open until 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was just really odd because I'd been to this spot during the day to have a look, like a week before. I didn't go fishing, just to have a look, and the gates were open then. So I've got to this spot, the gate was locked. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? This is weird. It should be open. And my father-in-law actually had spoken about a spot. It was about 5-minute drive down the road that he used to go fishing and swimming and that as a kid. I was like, I'll go there and have a look instead. And so I found it on my maps on my phone and started to drive there. And I've driven through the gate. And as I come through the gate, I was listening to music on my Spotify. And the Spotify glitched out and a song started to play. It was like a rock song. I still haven't found it. But the chorus it kept singing over and over was, you know, this is a bad idea. And I was like, what? That's weird.
Wow.
So I'm not paying attention. Then it glitched out again and went back to the song I was listening to. And I pulled up, got my kayak off the back of the ute, grabbed all my fishing rods and that, started heading down to the river and realized, I forgot my GoPro. So I stopped, ran back up the car, got my GoPro, and I was like, I don't forget anything. I've forgotten so much today. What's going on? And started to head down from the car, and the bush was that thick. It took me nearly 30 minutes to get down to the bush. And I was like, oh no. Got down there, chucked the kayak in the water, turned my GoPro on, started paddling off, and I stopped. The river was that shallow that the kayak was actually catching on the bank, like on the bottom, the riverbed. I was like, oh no. So I had to pull myself through with the paddle, got to a spot that was really deep. And as soon as I dropped down onto the deep spot, I cast the lure out and wound it back, and there was a surface lure, and I had 5 fish at the same time trying to hit it. I was like, what's going on here? Hooked one, threw it back, same thing, cast straight out, 5 fish going at the same time. I was like, this is wild. It's like no one's ever fished here before. And after going through that bush to get to the river, the average person that goes fishing, they're not going to go through that. And the average person with a kayak definitely not going to go through that sort of effort to get to the water. So I was like, I could be the first person that's ever been down here in a kayak fishing. So I'm fishing away and catching fish everywhere. Every time I cast the lure out, I was catching one. I was like, this is the best. It's like it's like my own little oasis. There's nothing going on. The sun's up. There's nothing going on around me. I was paddling down the river a bit, and out to my left, I actually seen like a grey. It was weird. It was like a grey flash through the bush. Oh. I went, oh, what's that? And I thought maybe, because I had sunglasses on, maybe I just caught a bit of glare off my sunnies, and so I sort of paid no attention to it. And I've come around a bend, and I've seen a big, massive rock face. It was like it ended actually in the water. I'm like, I'm going to paddle over there. I'm going to cast at that. There'll be a big fish on that rock, like underneath that rock ledge for sure. And sure enough, as soon as that lure hit the water, bang, I was on. Wound it in, chucked it back, and turned my kayak a little bit to look at the right side of the river. And there was a big snag, like there was a snag into the water, so like a branch into the water. I was like, I'm going to cast at that. As soon as the lure hit the water, it was like instantaneously got smashed by a fish. But as that fish has smashed it and I started to wind in, something from up in the bush on the right-hand side come tearing through the bush at me. You could hear it running. You hear the sledgehammer feet hitting the ground, and you could hear it swinging its arm and hitting branches and trees and that out of the bush, like in the bush, out of its way. It was running towards me. It's going bang, bang, smash. Like I stopped and froze, and whatever it was stopped just out of eyesight and just let out this roar. And the roar, to me, sounded like a big, like African, like a lion, like a big oh. But then when it took a breath in, it was like, ugh. And it actually, the breath in, like the inhale, actually sounded nearly like a grizzly bear's roar that it does. Dang. And then it'd go oh, and then oh, and I was freaking out, and I had no phone service. Australia, you can't walk around with guns, so I had no gun. I didn't even have a fishing knife on me. The best thing I had on me was a pair of long-nosed pliers.
Wow.
I'm trying to wind this fish in as fast as I could. Got the fish in, pulled the hooks out of it, threw the fish in. As soon as that fish hit the water, this creature in the bush went to a whole nother level. Those roars went 10 times louder, and then it started smashing the bush as it was roaring at me too. And something in my head, a voice in my head told me, go now or you'll die. And I've never heard that voice before. It wasn't my own thoughts and nothing. It was a voice in my head saying, go now or you'll die. And all I did was just turn my kayak and just paddled back to the car, and I tried to pretend like I couldn't hear it, like nothing was going on. And I got about 50 meters up the river and it just stopped. I was like, what is going on? I paddled back, got to that real shallow bit, dragged the kayak through, chucked it up on the bank, threw my fishing rods up onto a rock so I could drag the kayak up properly. And as I put the fishing rods down, I turned around and went to walk off, and something hit my fishing rods and knocked them over. So something's like thrown something over at me and knocked the fishing rods over, and I grabbed the kayak, dragged it up, grabbed all my stuff. And usually I just drag my kayak through the bush. It doesn't sort of worry me. It's an older one. And I actually chucked it up on my shoulder and ran, because I thought if I'm dragging it through the bush, it's going to be that loud I won't be able to hear whatever it is sneaking up on me. Because where I went into the water was like an old weir, so it sort of stops the water flowing so hard so farmers can use it for crops and that easier further up the river and that. So whatever it was on that other side of the river, but it could easily cross that weir and get me before I got through the half an hour of bush bashing to get to the car. And I grabbed it, my kayak on my shoulder, grabbed my rods, ran through the bush, and there was a big set of stairs you'd have to climb up to get to the car. I ran up them. I think I'd done it in about 10 minutes instead of the half an hour. Chucked everything on the back of the ute, jumped in the car, and I used to get real bad anxiety and depression as a kid, and my anxiety and the adrenaline was pumping that much that my vision, it was like pulsating. Like I was like, I cannot drive. Right. I jumped in the car, locked the doors. At that time, there was more people had turned up into this area, so I felt safe enough to just, like, I didn't have to try and worry about driving in the state I was in, and I just sat there and tried breathing technique, like to settle myself down. And after a while, like I realized, made sure everything was in the back of the ute. I was like, oh, GoPro. I had my GoPro playing the whole time. I've recorded that. I've actually got it on my YouTube, and if you know what you're listening for, you can hear the roars, but the old GoPros, the audio wasn't real good unless you're talking to it or it's within 10 meters. It's pretty pus, but if you know what you're looking for at the right time, you can actually hear them roars, and it's wild. And I sat there on my phone. I sent a message to one of my friends and said, this is what's happened. I think it's a Yowie, blah, blah, blah. We have to come out and have a look. And I started looking up sounds of the Australian bush, so like kangaroos, koalas, wombats, all their mating calls, their aggression calls, like all the different sounds that animals make in the Australian bush, even dingoes, wild dogs, everything. And nothing sounded anything like what I heard, other than I looked up the African lion, the big lion, like the big male lion, and that's what that roar was. And that breath in is dead set sounds like a grizzly bear when they go, ugh! Like it was the wildest thing I've ever heard in my life. And sitting there, and I finally calmed down, and I got home and I showed my partner, and she listened, and she's like, "Yep, I can hear the roar. That's absolutely wild." And I was speaking to my friend again, like the one that's done the documentaries, and he said, was it that creature that creature talking to me telepathically, telling me to go now or you'll die? Or the location that it happened was actually the national park's named after my Aboriginal ancestors' tribe? Was it my ancestors maybe warning me because I was on their land, coming to me saying, "Hey, Johnny, like get going now or something bad's going to happen"? I haven't worked it out, but yeah, that was pretty wild.
I think that was an angel.
Mm.
That was your
I've actually had it happen before, but it wasn't the same voice. But we went to the snowfields, and we went off we didn't go to the normal spot. We went to another spot and went further up into the mountains, and we were all standing there. I was with my auntie and uncle and my nan and pop and my little cousins, and my sister were playing behind us. And I was standing there looking, like talking to my auntie and uncle, and something said to me, "Turn around." And I turned around, and my little cousin actually slipped on the ice and started sliding down, and she was about to fall over a cliff. And I ran and slid down the ice and stamped my foot into the ground and pulled us up and stopped us just before we went over a cliff. So I've had that happen before, but it wasn't the same voice. But yeah, that's something told me that day, turn around. If I hadn't heard that voice, she'd be gone now, you know what I mean? Like it was a 50-meter drop onto rocks and that below. We wouldn't have even known where she was for half an hour. Would have been trying to look for her and that. So I've had that happen once before. So for it to happen again, and I left and nothing ended up happening to me, something was definitely warning me, whether it was this creature or my the Aboriginal ancestors telling me, "Hey, get going, like something's going to happen here." And
that was an angel, man. 100%.
Yeah. And since then, it actually gave me nightmares. I'd wake up in the middle of the night in hot sweats. I'd hear that roar. I'd actually had dreams that I'd be going down the river again, exactly how it happened. And I'd see trees or a rock, and it had this weird symbol on it. I'll send the photo over to you later because I actually drew it. But I'd see this symbol all the time, and then the roar would happen, and then I'd wake up. And one day I do civil construction, so we build up the land and then like make house blocks for people to build their houses on and build roads and all that. And we're actually in a spot where my ancestors were living before the Europeans come over and kicked them off their lands and that. And my great grandma was actually there was a massacre not far from here, and the New South Wales police killed all the Aboriginals. They pushed them off the cliffs and they died. Like all of them died except for 3. And my great grandma was one of the only ones that survived. And
wow.
she actually lived on this land that I was working on, and it was a government farm, so you couldn't walk in it off the street. So without me having this job, there's no way I could actually go out there. And so I've had a lot of stuff happen like that since this happened. But I was out there one morning and I was getting the rollers to fix the roads up, and I got there to we'd check the oils and that in the mornings, and that symbol I'd been seeing in my dream, something's drawn it on the window in the ice from the frost. I got there and went to open the door, and there's that symbol drawn on the window. And that's wild. Like I'd only ever seen it in my dream. I hadn't told anyone about it. And for me to get to work where no one at work knows about what I do with my YouTube and having these encounters and that. So none of them could have heard it from anywhere. So it has to be like something to do with my Aboriginal ancestors trying to communicate maybe or what. But to be on her land and that symbol to be drawn on the window by something, it's pretty wild, hey?
Yeah, that is pretty, so something drew like a fingerprint?
I'd been seeing.
Like someone got their finger and drew it on the window, you mean? Like someone got their finger?
Yeah, but there was 3 sort of like claw marks on it too. It's wild. I'll send you the photos of them.
That sounds like definitely something evil that's lurking. For sure, 100%. I see. Like the way I see it is, whatever's going on over there, man, there's definitely some kind of ancient entity that's occupying it, a non-human spirit, in my opinion, because I believe, like, once we die, that's it. God has the last say. We're waiting till judgment. I don't believe that we can just just say, hey, I'm going to hang out here. God, God give me, a couple years to stay right here. No, once you die, in my opinion, you go, and whatever in my opinion, whatever's there's obviously, I think there was definitely some non-human entities that were alive at one point, and they're stuck there because, as the book of Enoch says, when these creatures die and they become a spirit, they're stuck on earth. They don't go to heaven or they don't go to hell because they're abominations. They were never supposed to be born. So they're caught up here on this realm, this spiritual realm, and they call them devils, or today we call them demons. So I think, man, whatever that is, in my opinion, there's like some kind of evil lurking in that area. For sure. What do you think, Dom?
Whether it's to do with all the tragedy with the Aboriginals being killed and that, whether it's brought on some spirit or being
that could attract it.
There,
the tragedy that happened there definitely attracts the
blood sacrifice.
The demonic creatures that were there for that.
The worst of it was too, like if you look up the Appa massacre, it says 15 Aboriginals died on this day, but we're talking to my elders, and because after all this happened, I went and joined the local Aboriginal. It's like the land council. So I'm on the board now, and we actually the government gives us the money in grants, and we get to work out where it goes. So we put money to a medical for the Aboriginals in the area, their housing and all that sort of stuff. So we're like sort of in charge of that to help our community. And I went to that after this. So whether it was sort of something pushing me in that direction to be able to try and help my family, you know what I mean? Like, whatever it was, but talking to the elders and stuff, they've actually said to me that massacre, it was more like 500 people died, not 15. So it was actually a meeting of all the different tribes in the area come together to try and work out how they can actually get on with the white people so that they stop fighting, because there kept being Aboriginals going in and killing Europeans, and the Europeans would come in and kill some Aboriginals. So they were actually meeting to try and work out peace with them. And the police come in and actually just pushed them all off the cliffs. They either shot them with guns or kept stabbing them with their bayonets until they pushed them off the cliffs and they all died. So it was like it was targeted. They knew that they were all going to be meeting at that time, and that's when they struck to try and take them out, because then they could claim all the land because there's no Aboriginals anymore. So whether it's something to do with that, with so much tragedy in the area.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's pretty wild, and But yeah, so that was the first encounter I had with the Dogman. And like I said, at first I thought it was a Yowie because I'd never heard of Dogman. I'd heard of it, but I was like, yeah, right, there's not a werewolf running around in the bush, especially on here in Australia, because I couldn't find any encounters on one. And it was about 3 days later is when I had the other encounter. So do you guys want to talk about any of that stuff?
Oh, bro,
get into the next one.
No, let's really quick. I want to just go with that whole thing, though, man. That area, wherever it's at, I would definitely do some research there. And if you ever can, and actually send me those. I'm curious to see what those symbols look like. Because, like I said, in my belief, this is very interesting to me. I don't believe, like, as a human, when you die, I don't believe you can just hang out as a spirit and say, hey, I'm going to haunt right here, God. Give me a few days. I'm going to stay here. No, it's just there's a certain thing, the way things go. So whatever's there is definitely a hot spot for supernatural activity. And I think that's just, man, because I kind of grew up in an area like that with, well, I didn't see any Dogman, but we saw some other crazy stuff, like, weird footprints of like giant chicken looking creature birds and just a lot of weird stuff. But anyways, it's like a hot spot, you know what I mean? And where we grew up, it's we found a lot of like bones and, what do you call it, Indian pottery. So whatever it was, similar, not Aboriginals, but Native Americans. We're like on Native American land, same thing, so yeah, very similar. Just wanted to throw that out there, but yeah. Dominic,
the only thing I believe, like, I thought the same as you, but the only thing that sort of got me with not being able to hang around after you die and that is my son, he was born after my pop had died. He'd never met him. And he actually hit his head one day and went to take him to hospital. And he went to the hospital that my pop died in. And the whole time at the hospital, he kept saying to my partner, pop horse, pop the horses, pop horse. And my daughter, when she was a baby, like she was alive when my pop was still alive. And that's what he used to call him. She used to call him Pop for the horses. So he never knew anything about that. And to be in the same hospital, and he kept going on and on and on. And we actually went out to the car and we were parked opposite the room that he died in. So there's a couple of stories and that, like different windows and that. And I'm like, Jacob, what are you talking about? And he goes, pop horse. And he pointed at the window that my pop had actually died in. And I was like, give me goosebumps. I'm like, that's the creepiest thing I've ever had. My partner started to cry. I rang my dad, and even he said, he goes, that's the weirdest thing ever, because he'd never heard anything about where he died or there's no physical way he could have known about it. But whether with him hitting his head and being worried about something, whether my pop had come through from somewhere else to comfort him, because they said kids can see spirits and hear voices. Maybe that's how pop had come through to him, because he had no idea about it. And that's what sort of confuses me about some things as well. It's like maybe with him hurting himself, maybe that was enough that pop come through from wherever he is now to be with him to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
A lot of instances when people, I'm not saying this is in your case, but I'm just generalizing. A lot of people who see these things, if it's by their own, devices, or they see a medium or something like that, and they'll see a loved one or, something along those lines, and those are what you call familiar spirits.
Yep.
They can mimic anyone in your life, in your genealogy. They're familiar spirits because they've been around before the earth was created.
Yeah.
These are the same sons of God and the starry host that sang for joy when God created the heavens and the earth. And that's what the Bible says. There's familiar spirits out there. And and that's something that, in my experiences, I mean, I've seen stuff and heard stuff myself that, it had to be a familiar spirit, because there's no way, my mom's going to show up, my dad's going to show up. It's not going to happen, man. But it seems so realistic and loving, and I don't know. I mean, this world is really crazy. I mean, you and I and Lionel, we're just trying to make sense of all this stuff.
Do you believe any of the stuff with like reincarnation? Like, do you reckon we get sent back to redo stuff
No.
if we haven't learnt or anything like that? Because the only other thing is, one of my friends, he actually said was, when you look at my son too, the way he walks, the way he laughs, the faces he pulls, it's like dead set, like it's pop all over again.
It's like genetics.
So that he said maybe that's something about him being there, whether it's to do with, like, you know, we have DNA imprinting. They talk about it with I train like harness racing, so like the trotters, when they do their races, we're on the gigs, they have to wear the hobbles so they pace, because it's not a natural gait. But now, over the 100 and 200 years of training them, the last 2 or 3 years, these babies, so like the yearlings and that, are getting they're 2 days old, are getting up and they're pacing around the paddocks now, and they don't need hobbles anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's been trained into them that much that they remember without even knowing. It's like they do it with like sheep dogs and stuff like that. So whether it's been imprinted into his DNA somehow that's where Pop was, and that could be how he knew that Pop had been there. You know what I mean? Like, it could be something to do with that, but it's pretty wild that happened.
Absolutely.
But I don't think I haven't thought about us like being stuck here or anything after. Like you said, like the way you explain it, I sort of think the same. But it's just some things like that. You're like, wow, like for my son to not know him, never met him. He knew of him, but he never knew that he was in that hospital and that. Like, he was only a year and a half old when he started talking about Pop at the hospital. It's wild.
That's unique.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah. So, do you want me to get into this other Dogman encounter?
Yeah, more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sweet.
Let's do it.
Yes. So it was actually 3 days later, like after that first encounter, where the creature come running through the bush at me, and I found another spot to go, and I was like, I'm not going at all close to dark. I got there, I found this other spot. It was actually Boxing Day, so I'd gotten a new kayak for Christmas, and I was like, I'm going out Boxing Day, I'm going to go for a fish, and got to this spot I'd been to 3 or 4 times at this other rivers, so like still the half an hour away from my house, and got there, set up, got in the water, was having a fish, caught a couple of fish. There was nothing going on, there was no sounds or anything, nothing creepy. Got a bit further down the bush, down the river, and in the bush I heard something break, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just a kangaroo. I'm too close to houses now. Like I could get out and run to someone's backyard. Like there's 100,000 houses here. Like, and then you go past them 100,000, there's another 200,000. Like I'm in full suburbia, this river. I actually could paddle 2 kilometers down the river and I come out into a massive city. So I was like, I'm safe as nothing's going to go on here. And after I heard that crack, I sort of paddled off. And as soon as I took the first paddle, something took a step in the bush. I took 3 paddles with 3 strokes with the paddle. This thing took 3 steps.
Oh, wow.
And this went on for a little bit, that every time I paddled, whatever it was would take steps. So it was trying to cover its footsteps with my paddle noises. And the sound of this thing, it would have been, like I said, I train race horses, and with the trotters, when they're a bit crazy and they keep galloping races and that, one of the best thing is you go into the bush with them, put the gig on them, drive through the bush, have them get scared by the kangaroos and the foxes and everything, and you can calm them down so they stop galloping, and they call them bomb proof. They won't gallop in that after that. So I know the noise of a 500 kilo animal running through the bush, running on sand, running on concrete, running on all different surfaces. And this thing that was walking after me sounded everything of 500 kilos.
Wow.
Just the noise of it. And whatever it was like stalking me. Like it was like a stalk. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to run back to the car, or paddle back to the car. But I couldn't, because this creature was actually on the same side of the river as my car again. I'm like, if I get out, whatever this thing is, it's massive. It's going to get me before I get there. And I had the idea of, I'm going to paddle down the river. I'll go to that big city. Because once I got within like 1.5 kilometers, so basically like a mile of this city, or down from where I am, so I'd be about 500 meters off the city, there's bike tracks and stuff, so I didn't have to actually get to the city. I just had to make it to there where people would be walking and drinking their coffees and stuff. So I thought I'd just paddle off a bit more, and out to the right, I seen a grey flash through the bush again. And that's when I thought, oh, this is freaking me out. What's going on? I've seen that again now, this grey flash. And that's when I've taken a couple of quick paddles, and this thing's taken a couple of quick steps. And this went on for nearly a kilometre. I was freaking out. I had no service on my phone. I didn't know what to do. I thought, I'm just going to keep paddling down. And just a bit, I sort of took a couple of paddles and stopped for a little bit. And I heard it take a couple of steps and stop. But then out to my left-hand side, I actually noticed something black in the bush. And I was like, what is that? I couldn't work out what it was. And I pulled my phone out and took 3 photos, put my phone down. Thought I'll take a couple more paddles and try and get up a bit further where it's a bit wider. And I didn't hear the footsteps again. And I was like, what is going on now? So I paddled off real quick and took off. I went about 500 meters down the river, and I pulled up on the opposite side and jumped out and had a smoke and a drink. And I was terrified. I was trying to look around everything. Couldn't find anything. Pulled my phone out and had a look. And when I zoomed in, there's that photo of this massive dog head sticking out of the bush.
Oh, my Lord.
And where it was standing, I thought it was about 7 foot tall. But I come back a couple months later with my mates that are doing the documentaries, we actually got out of the kayaks and went to exactly the same spot. So I've taken like comparison photos to rule out pareidolia and all that. So there's none of that. There's nothing else there. So we've like cleared that. We've gone in there. We actually found, it was weird, like the way the bush looks from the river is you get in there and it's actually like a canopy, like it's all vines and stuff. So once you go in there, it's all flat. So that head where it was at to get to where it was, there was no spots something could be climbed up a tree to get to, and it would have been standing at like 10 to 12 foot tall, not the 7 foot like I thought. So this was massive. And in the vines and that, there was one spot, it sort of looks like a den. So it's like an opening, and then it like a big, massive like vine like covered area, and you looked in there and it was all padded down and stuff. Like, so yeah, it's wild. Whether it had pups there or whatever you'd call a dog man's kids or what, but this thing, like once that happened, I've seen them photos, I freaked out, I didn't know what to do, and I've taken off back, paddled back. I would have won the gold medal at the Olympics. I paddled that quick, got home, showed my part. Yeah, it was ridiculous because I was like, what am I going to do? I didn't hear anything that whole way back, not a sound. Hey, got back to the car, drove home, showed the partner the phones, and she's like, that's crazy. It sort of looks like a monkey. I was like, I think it looks like more like a dog. When I look at it, it looks like a big German Shepherd, like a black German Shepherd dog's head, or like a wolf.
And how was the body? How was the body for it to say look like a monkey? Was it doing like that? Because some people describe this thing like it comes down on like a spider sometimes. Like it kind of like see like a monkey kind of vibe to that. They kind of knuckle at you. Its head just come out in the. I only seen it because it just come out like its head just poked out of the bush. I was like, "What's that?" and took the photo, so I couldn't see the body. Oh, okay.
But for it to get to where it was, yeah, it had to be 10 to 12 foot tall. There was nothing in there that I could have actually climbed on to hold myself up to that height, let alone something that sounded like 500 kilos walking through the bush. It was, so what's 500 kilos? I think it's 1,000 pounds.
Right.
Like It was massive. And yeah, it's everything. I look at it, it's a dog or a wolf. I've had people try and tell me, oh, it looks like a kangaroo, and I laughed. I said, I don't know any kangaroo in Australia that looks like a police dog, and I got home, like showed her the photo, sent it around to a few people. A lot of people like, oh my god, and
send that to me. I want to see that.
Yeah, looked up the dog man, and I was like, wow, like these things exist. I was like, if werewolves exist, where are the vampires and whatever else that's out
no
there?
Kidding,
you know
man.
I mean? Like,
we just had a podcast. Did you listen to the recent podcast? This guy saw a vampire.
Oh no, I haven't heard that one.
No, it's episode 44. It came out 2 weeks ago? Dude, yeah.
I'll look it up.
Vampire, bro. It was Sabbath at Midnight with Philip Paul, I believe.
Yeah, I'll look it up. For some reason, man, my Spotify and that.
Episode 44. There you go.
I have so much stuff that I'm subscribed to and got the notifications on, and I don't get it, eh?
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you noticed that, like a lot of stuff, the notifications don't go through. Like,
well, I turn my notifications off anyways because my phone stresses me out, man. I don't even like to talk on the phone, dude. I hate my phone.
Yeah. There's so much stuff now that you talk about that just notification, even like the Joe Rogan podcast and that, some of them you don't get notifications for anymore. It's like something's out there trying to stop people from hearing stuff. So it's weird. Like yours, sometimes I don't get notifications, and same as when I spoke to Tony the other day, like the confessionals, a lot of them don't come through either.
Yeah.
And then I've noticed that lately, a lot of my YouTube videos that I put up, people are messaging me a month later going, I didn't get a notification that video come out. And it's weird because I've got, like, it's only little, but I've got nearly 1,800 subscribers on my YouTube now. And I bring a video out and I'm only getting 200 views.
Oh, that's not right. That's not normal.
Like, how does that work? I got that many subscribers, but only getting 200 views. It's sort of like blocked or something. But only since my Dogman photos and catching these other things on thermal and stuff, it's just like something's trying to stop the.
Yeah, you should be getting way more views than that, bro.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's wild.
Man.
So yeah, so I'll definitely look up that. I'm sure it was the confessionals, or it might have been Cryptids of the Corn, or the confessionals had one a couple of months ago about a guy with his family went up one of the mountains in Appalachia and seen a guy they reckon was a vampire the way it was in a tomb and stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've heard stuff like that too. Even with our first episode with Gary Wayne, we get into some of this vampire stuff, these vampirics, or whatever you want to call them, what's it called? Dracula. Vlad the Impaler, the real name, get into that. But definitely vampires are definitely some kind of and you gotta listen to that podcast. And the way this guy described it, it was just like how the movies are, where it's kind of sitting by the window, kind of trying to telepathically make you invite it in. You kind of, like invite it in, you know what I mean? These vampires are only allowed to come in when you're invited. It's crazy stuff like that. But yeah, man, this werewolf, whatever you saw is definitely in common with all the people that we spoke to about this dog-headed creature.
Yeah. And after this happened, I sent the photos to my dad. He still messages me now, like, I can't believe you got photos of that thing. Because you get on the internet and you see someone, oh, I had a dogman encounter, and you watch a video, and it's an eyeball from like 500 meters away.
I know, with a big red circle around it, huh?
Yeah. Look here. And you don't see it. Look here.
And they've recorded it on like a potato or something. You know what I mean? Like it's the worst quality ever.
I gotta see
and
these
it's an
pictures.
Eyeball, and it's not even an eyeball; it's a leaf or something on it, like on an angle. Like it's like I used to laugh about dogmen all the time. Like, oh yeah, that's dogman. Whatever, you use it crazy. Like, there's no such thing. And then I seen it, I was like, oh my god, this thing's real. So what else is out there?
Yeah. So you have a picture of it? Like, can you send that to me to my Instagram when you have a chance? I definitely want to see that, man. Oh my gosh. I gotta see it. I just have to. Matter of fact, we can make it whatever. You can send me like a screenshot or whatever. I want to make it the cover of this podcast. That's gonna be the cover of the podcast.
I'll send it through.
In this area that's charged, any strange lights, UFOs, anything like that going on?
Well, the thing that's got me, and talking to Tony Merkel the other day. One side of the river is this national park I was talking about. The other side is an army barracks. Oh, and so many people.
There you go. There's a connection, dude. There's a connection because here somewhere in the States, from what I understand, is they have a lot of these creatures, these, I don't know, Dogman and Bigfoot.
They're probably making these things.
Well, that's what they do. Yeah. They're making them, and they call it the zoo.
Yeah, and that's the way. I said, did I catch their guard dog? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, that's what it's like. It's
a hybrid experiment. That's what I think it is. Because we're already doing it.
When I told Tony, he's like, that's wild. I've heard of it. There's a place in Tennessee they've had portals and they've seen these creatures come out on army barracks and all this. And that same army barracks, I've heard reports of UFOs coming up out of there. Like, people have actually reported being given non-disclosure statements and talked about actual crafts coming up out of the barracks, and they've had to be working there at the time. They worked for the fire brigade, and they've been called in to come in. You're not allowed to talk about what's going on. Seeing this thing come up out of the ground, do some maneuvers, go back down, and then they get told to leave. So there's a lot of stuff going on around army barracks and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're making their own guard dogs and that. Like,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, they're making. So, like, what countries do we know that, China's doing it, the UK, Mexico, I mean, Brazil? Yep. It's just like not even a conspiracy. It's a fact that they're making these, they cover it up with, they're doing it for medical purposes to make us, organs and all stuff.
Yeah.
But, they're making these things, or they're, messing with them, probably letting them live, letting a couple escape, see what they do. I mean, like, who's gonna believe you? You know what I mean? Who's gonna believe you? I saw a pig-headed man with a cat tail. No one's gonna believe you.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, that's why at first I didn't want to come forward with it all, because I was like, yeah, right, people are going to laugh at me. You've seen a werewolf. But with the being in Australia with the pandemic, we had so bad of lockdowns and that, like, you weren't allowed to leave the house and all that, and I wasn't allowed to go. But I was allowed to go to work, but I wasn't allowed to go to the pub because of certain stuff that I didn't do with my body. I wasn't allowed to do it, you know what I mean? And
I know.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're allowed to talk about on this show. So because I didn't
just use code words. It's pretty.
Yeah. So because I didn't do that, I wasn't allowed out, but I was allowed to go to work, which was weird.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was allowed to work out near where they were doing testings to make sure people didn't have this virus.
Yeah.
I was allowed to work right next to it, but I wasn't allowed to go to the pub with my friends. Like, I was like, it's just wild. Anyway, so once the lockdowns broke and everything went back to normal, I could go out, I had, like, my anxiety and depression come back so bad. And it was like I was so pumped up the whole time with all the fear mongering and all the stuff that was going on, that once it all ended and I, like, sort of my body, like, went, oh, you can relax now, I just released too much and I had a bit of depression, had time off. And that's when I started doing my little podcast and I started making all these videos. It was probably the main thing that actually brought me out of my depression, was talking about it and talking about all the stuff that had happened. It sort of got my mind off what was going on with me, and it sort of brought me out of my depression. So that's the main reason I come forward with it, was because it helped me. And I think people should know that these creatures do exist. And so many people in Australia go camping out in the middle of the bush with no power, no phone service or anything, and it's not to scare people to not go and do it. It's more to say, hey, these things are out there, keep an eye out, but like, don't fear the bush and don't go out there, but just keep in mind that when there's something that goes bump in the night, there is monsters out there that go bump in the night. And sometimes it's not just your imagination. You know what I mean? Like, I got two little kids, and you go out bush and we love going camping and stuff, but you sort of still got it in the back of your mind that one of these things could be around. And there's no, like, in Europe and all that, you got all these reports of werewolves and that from the 1600s, like old reports and that. There's nothing in Australia about Dogman, and I couldn't find any reports. But after I'd done a podcast with one of my good friends, she's got Yaoi Central. You should talk to her one day. She's awesome, and she had me on, and she was talking about this with me, and she actually gave me 5 reports straight away that she'd had of people ringing up and talking about having an encounter with a Dogman in Australia. So there's actually out there, and I've actually come up with this. Might sound crazy, but in Australia we've got Yowies. Have you ever heard them talk about the Bunyip?
The what?
It's another Bunyip. It's another creature, like a mythical creature that's supposed to be out there.
What in the world does that look like? Please tell me.
Well, a lot of people reported it's always in water sources. So whether it's a river, a lake, a dam, a swamp, a billabong, or anything like that, it's always seen around the water or in the water. All my encounters I've had are around water.
That's another thing too, yeah.
And you type in Bunyip, and if you go into Google and type in Bunyip, the first picture that comes up, it's dead set a dog standing in the water with an Aboriginal in its mouth.
Oh,
like it's a sketch, you know what I mean? I'm like, so there's no reports of Dogman, but there's thousands of reports of Bunyip. So how do we know that half the Yowie encounters and half the Bunyip encounters are actually Dogman because people didn't see them or misidentified them for Yowies? They might have seen the Dogman standing there from behind and thought it was a Yowie when it was actually a Dogman, you know what I mean? So
it's like
I reckon
a water dog.
What's that?
It's like a water dog. I'm looking at it. It's like a water dog. Look at it.
Yeah, it's freaky.
So if I seen this thing in the water, that's what it would have looked like. It would have looked like a German Shepherd thing standing in the water, you know what I mean? So I reckon they have been around for however long. It's people have just been misidentifying them, whether it's for Yowies or for Bunyips or something else, you know what I mean?
Crazy.
So
I think the Bunyip thing's actually a pretty good all this stuff you're telling me about, cause everything's by the water, you're going fishing, and then you see this dog-looking thing. It looks like a dog. It looks like a dog that hunts in the water.
Yeah. It's like a lot of the encounters in America and that I've heard and listened to have been around water too. So that's what's sort of pushing me towards it. Maybe
most UFO sightings are off the coast. All 90%.
Yeah, so that's why I reckon that's why they've gone unidentified in Australia, undetected in Australia, because they're actually being labelled as Bunyips, not Dogman. So there's no Aboriginal stories of them, but there's Aboriginal stories of the animal, like the Bunyips, you know what I mean? So that could be why there's no historical stories from the Aboriginals on them. But there was one story I heard of that they called it the Dingo Man, which was a human figure with a dog's head, so it looked like a dingo. That's what the native dogs are in Australia.
Oh, kind of like the Osiris-looking thing, or Egyptian-looking things.
No, more. It's just like a dog's head on a person. There's only one Aboriginal story I've ever heard. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Like the hieroglyphs, they have like a dog head with a human body.
Yeah, sort of like that. So that's, who knows that these creatures. I thought these creatures didn't exist, but the more I look into it, the more encounters I'm finding in Australia, and it's pretty wild with what's going on in the world at the same time as all this with everything that's happened in the last 3 years, and the encounters with cryptids and weird beings I've had in the last 3 years at the same time. It's like, is it all tied in together? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean,
what do you think about that?
Well, I think this. I've done a little bit of research on this stuff a while back, and not as deep as you're probably doing it, but I kind of went the historical route to see if there's any any writings about these things that go back further. And I believe Alexander the Great was a real person in history, and in his writings, he wrote about a race called the Cynocephali. And they were like a human body with a dog head, and this was like, and they talked about it like it was another day, and they all had, and then Christopher Columbus also said he saw these things, and so with the conquistadors, and then and all these other explorers from different times, from 300, 400, 500 years apart, all describe a race of these dog-headed men and women, and you know, some of them wear little to no clothes. They like barely even covered themselves up. They cook their food on rocks, I believe, hot rock. I mean, all these different people are telling the same kind of description. You know, they cook their food on rocks. They don't talk. They bark. They use hand sign language, stuff like that. And you know, this right here for sure is like something that's been written about, and you know, the Greeks wrote about them too. And you know, it's like a whole race of these dog-headed communities, and a lot of them were in India. Apparently, a lot of the biggest communities were like in India, like, you know, 200,000 of these things in a city. You know what I mean? It's crazy to think about. Just imagine a city of 200,000 dog-headed people. That's just wild to me.
Oh yeah, and I think back in the 1200s, Marco Polo's journeys.
Too.
He came about some dog-headed people that were followers of the Tartars. He believed. You know, so these things, dude, what you saw, man, I don't know. I think it was mad at you because you were taking his fish.
That too.
Yeah, there's actually, since joining, like I said, I joined the Land Council to try and find out about my family because, like I said, my great-grandmother, she was like my great-great-grandmother. She survived the Appa massacre. My grandmother, her mum, so my great-grandmother, she was Aboriginal, like that's where the Aboriginal in our family comes from. She left when my grandma was about 9. So grandma's got no idea about her family, like the Aboriginal side, no information on them or that. So I joined to try and learn stuff to be able to help her and that. And yeah, it's just wild with all this stuff going on and talking to them. And it's weird that all this happened and it sort of pushed me towards that, whether I was meant to go and join the Land Council to find stuff out and be able to research more. But yeah, sorry, I just lost me track of thought then. What were you saying?
No, that's okay. I mean, we get it. You know, family, you know, that's
Oh yeah, about like you're saying like over in India, like with like there being that many of them and that, like.
Oh yeah, massive cities. I mean, they had like they had their own like you know, they had their own little chores. Like, you know, the men went out and hunt, the women would, you know, do like they had their own little community and like little things to do, and they even you know, communicated with the neighboring humans, and they traded, you know, stuff with each other, man. It's pretty crazy. Yeah,
and it's like I said, the Aboriginals got on with the Yowies and stuff, and they've put them, like, not talked about them, but I honestly reckon that these creatures, the Dogman, are the ones that are taking people in the bush. And I've had the encounters with Yowies, and I feel scared, but not life-threatening, like threatened by them. But these couple of encounters I had with this creature, and it's wild, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's when people are going missing in the bush, never to be seen again. I reckon these things are taking them. So it's like you said about Christopher Columbus and that. I've heard the stories, reports of them seeing these creatures, and you read about them like they're in the Bible, they're in everything. Like whether they've maybe over here they might have evolved a bit more or something, and that's why, like, a lot of them are saying, like, that could be how they're so hairy now, like they're like a werewolf, whether they've started growing that to do with their climate they're living in. Like, them cynocephaly, if they were in Europe, you look how cold it gets there in winter and that, like, they would have died having no hair on their body, you know what I mean, if they're walking around with no clothes on and stuff. Like, well, they did. Well, they did have they had, like, more hair than a human. They're pretty hairy, but I don't know, like, to the extent. But I do know that it was just, like I said, this was worldwide. Like, there was like little communities of these things everywhere. Yeah. And it still trips me out to even think about it. You know, hey, you want to go down to the dog-headed village and pick up some stuff? Like, I mean, it's, and then, you know, the thing is that makes me trip out is when they describe it that they wouldn't talk, they would bark at you. So just imagine, you know, a person, you know, 6-7 foot tall with a dog head and just barking at you and it's talking to you, but it's barking at you. It's pretty creepy. You know? Yeah. I've been back to that. Like I said, I've been back to the spot with my friends that were making the documentary to check out where I've seen the face of this creature coming through the bush at me. We actually tried to go back to the spot where I was in the kayak where it come running through the bush at me. And when they were making the documentary, we couldn't get there, but we went a bit further up and we did a night watch. We just went and sat in the bush at night. And there was a lot of weird stuff happening. Like, my friend, he's like, look at this, and he was looking at his hand. And so, you know, when you move your fingers and you can see the top of your hand, you see the bones and the top of your hands moving. Yeah. His fingers were flat. He had his hands flat, and you could see it looked like that, but it was like someone was stroking his hand. You could see like indents of fingers going across the top of his hand. And
wow.
a couple of minutes later, I seen on the other side of the river up on the ridge line. At first, I thought it was stars coming through the bush, but I seen these two amber eyes, and they were really wide apart, like wider than my eyes apart, looking at me, like looking at us. And I was saying to my mates, "Look at that," and they couldn't see it because I was in a different like angle to them. But I seen them, and I've seen a few times it blink, like so they've gone dull and opened back up again, and it moved around, and that freaked us out, and we left. And I actually got a photo of a bit like when they left. I was sitting in the ute, and actually I thought I seen something at a tree, and I took a photo. I'll send you that photo too. Whatever this thing was, it was only little, but it's sticking out from behind the tree, and I've zoomed right in and changed like the contrast and that to make it stick out a bit more. But it was like a little creature there, and so I reckon wherever these Dogman or Yowies are, there's a lot more out there too that we're missing, whether it's something to do with the veil being thin there and all these things are coming through, or it's the energy in these areas that once you have an encounter with something in one spot, you seem to have encounters with everything there as well. Like, it's wild. I don't know if energy draws them in like a beacon, or it's something that the veil's thinning in those spots and more things are coming through. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, maybe you should take a magnetic type of instrument, a spectrometer or something, to see what's going on out there. It could be, it could be, man. Then you got that military base, and you know, there's, who knows? I mean, it could be, you know, a whole civilization of these things under the ground.
Yeah,
or,
and that's it.
You know,
there's a thing a while ago, like last year or the year before, we had an earthquake down in Melbourne, and it wrecked a few buildings and stuff. And where we are in Australia, even at school, we got taught we don't have earthquakes because we're on top of a tectonic plate. We're not where they're meeting. So if we do have one, they're only little. So it's sort of just we'll catch a rumbling off an earthquake somewhere further down the tectonic plates where they're rubbing together and that. But there was a big earthquake, and it was like a 5.6 or something. And where it happened, it was about 150 kilometres away was the main city of Melbourne. And it actually brought walls down on brick buildings and stuff like that. And when I was looking at that, I actually watched a video with that David Paulides on the Missing 411s. He was doing videos on his YouTube, and he was talking about there was an area in Victoria, which is like Melbourne, further up into the hinterland. So where this earthquake happened, in that same location, he had made a video, and it had like 7 missing people that had just vanished off the face of the earth in this same area. And I thought that's really weird because we don't have earthquakes. And when I looked it up, I went onto this Yowie, like the Yowie website, went onto the interactive map. In that same area, there's been about 50 Yowie sightings as well. So what got me is we don't have earthquakes. There's people going missing in this area, and earthquakes hit in the same spot, and there's all these missing people. I was like, could that be them dropping some caves, the earthquake? Maybe something's been coming up out of the cave systems there and taking people, and they've caught on now and went up and detonated and blew up the cave so the creatures can't come back out anymore. It's pretty wild. I'll send that through to you. I did a couple of screenshots and sort of merged them together, and it's all in this one location. That earthquakes we don't really have. Yowies aren't supposed to exist. People are seeing them there, and then all these people are missing as well now in this same spot. So many spots, like hot spots like that around the world now. Like, it's like you said, don't know if they're coming from the caves, coming up from underground or what, but it just seems to be more and more. I don't know if you guys are getting more reports now, whether it's technology or
of course,
sales spinning or something. But even I can go out nearly every night and look, and I find something or hear
I think
something.
The world itself is becoming more and more. The veil is being whatever's hiding behind the veil is getting thinner. There you go. That's what I'm trying to say. Because think about it like this: with all the technology we're getting, we're peering more and more into the other reality. For example, I mean, before people had a mirror, people could only tell you how you looked by someone else looking at you, and then the mirrors they did have back then was a little piece of junk metal. You can barely see yourself. You're blurry. You don't know what you look like. And then we started getting mirrors and then better mirrors. That's a whole new reality right there. You're looking in a mirror, you're seeing yourself for the first time. That's that's kind of opening the veil, and on it, things start going. Then we start getting cameras. We get thermal cameras, all these different technologies to keep thinning out the veil. And then, with all the cell phones and all this stuff and, all these different things that pick up different frequencies. I mean, they have that camera now that picks up ghosts, and it actually works pretty good, And so, it's kind of like we're making it like that. We're making the veil thinner and thinner with the technology that we're coming out with. And whether we like it or not, whoever's in charge of this world is looking for these things, and they're doing everything and anything they can to bring these things out to this realm.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Wild. That spot I was saying that I just went for a drive that time, and I pulled up and had that creature right close to my ute. When I caught it on the thermal, it's weird because that spot I've been back to so many times now. I've had so much different stuff. I found like symbols on the ground, and we've even found tree structures now, and it's a real big like sandstone gorge there. And a lot of people say that they have these encounters with creatures around sandstone or granite, it's weird. It's like it's an energy beacon for them. But that time when I caught the thing on the thermal, like I just got this thermal camera. It was only a cheap one. It was still like $1,000, but it works awesome. And you see on the footage, you see this thing stick its head out from behind the bush, and the battery's supposed to last like 6 or 7 hours. And I got 2 minutes of footage and it died. I pulled my camera out, started recording, my headlamp died. I pulled, what else? Something else. I think it was my camera that I have, I've got a night vision, like it's got IR, a booster on it, so you can use infrared with it too, like a night vision. So I bought it's a little torch, so they use them on like night vision scopes. It's like a booster torch. It died as well, and that's when I freaked out and took off because I was like, my car's turned off, it's got a battery. If my battery doesn't start, I'm gone here. So, but all these creatures people are having encounters with, they're having so much weird stuff happen. Like I've had all my batteries die on me. I found a den out this spot and recorded it, and the next time I went out, there's like an A symbol made out of 2 branches, like something had made it and put it near this den. And then I made a video of that, and my grandma and my auntie rang my dad and actually said, do you know what's weird? And they're like, they didn't want to ring me and tell me, so they rang Dad and told him, and he rang me and told me because they didn't want me to think that they were taking the piss out of me, like making fun of me. But they went down to get the mail one day at their house. They're not far from my place, and there's a couple of them symbols there too. I was like, what the hell? Like, it's like whatever's in this area is saying like it knows me or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just pretty wild, but yeah, it gets pretty wild, but then it's still pretty exciting too, because like I said, I haven't been taken yet, and the more I look, the more I find, and it sort of catches you. You just want to learn more and try and figure out more to try and help people. And like I said, that's all I come forward for, like with it all, was to try and help people. Like so many people out there have stuff happen, and they just think, imagine how many people are in like mental institutions and that have had stuff happen that think they're absolutely crazy, but they're not. They've actually have seen what they've encountered, and it wasn't just their mind playing tricks on them. They haven't got schizophrenia or they haven't got all these problems. They're actually real. So that's why I come forward to tell everyone about it and say, hey guys, if you have something happen out of the bush, you're not crazy. There is actually stuff out there, because like I said, I thought I was pretty crazy when I looked at them photos. I was like, no way, that's not a dog-headed creature standing in the bush looking at me like.
Absolutely.
Wild.
Brother, that was an amazing story. I'd love to have you back on, man. We're up for the hour now, but yeah, everything that you said, man, I definitely would love to talk to you more about it, maybe on another podcast. But I really thank you for coming on the show, sharing your story, and just being able to talk about it, because a lot of people are, they don't want to talk about this stuff. It's hard to get somebody to get on here and talk about this stuff. It's just it's unreal to talk about it. I mean, we talked about the Yaoi, dog-headed man, and then we got into this water dog I never even heard of before. I learned something new every day. So, yes, thank you again for coming on. And also, really quick, do you have any places that you want everybody to find you at, the name of your YouTube, your Instagram? Go ahead and shout that out right now.
Yeah, sweet. Well, if you just want to have a look at, I've actually put my original footage I got from that Dogman encounter on my YouTube. So if people want to watch that to sort of see, they can like listen to you and then go back and actually visualize where it was and what happened. And my YouTube's Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner. I've just got an Instagram too. It's just Creepers Cryptid. But I have my stuff that I put on YouTube. I put on Spotify too for people like me. I don't like paying for YouTube, so I haven't got the premium. So you can't watch stuff and lock your phone. It turns it off. So I put it on Spotify so people can just listen if they want. And it's just the same thing, just Creepers Cryptid and Paranormal Corner. If you want to go and check that out, you can see the other stuff that I've found. And I'm starting to do, I'm getting a new place. Once I have that set up, I've got a studio. We'll have to do it again, and you have to come on and have a chat with me, because I'm going to start doing some interviews as well. We can talk about some of the wild stuff you've heard and seen, and it'd be awesome.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for being on. Just hang on for a second right here. Don't hang up yet, all right? We're just going to close out. So thank you, everybody, for listening to the Sabbath at Midnight. This was a very good episode. Hope you guys are all joining us and listening. And please stick around, because we're going to have many, many more episodes like this. And hopefully we can get John back on. Also, don't forget to follow us, like us on all our platforms on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Also, if you want to become a member and help us out, help the show grow, help the show get more content, better quality videos, stuff like that, merchandise, please become a member on Buzzsprout. It's just $7 a month. If you can, God bless you. And if you can't, God bless you. I'm glad you guys are here for the podcast, because without you guys, we wouldn't even be here today. So God bless you, everybody, and have a good night. And John, just stay on the line. I'll get with you in a second.